Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Austin. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here. And, I just got to hear my son. I don't hear him too much speaking. I think he did a very good job. Where is Don? Come here, Don. Come here. You can't give that kind of a speech before I speak. They'll say the father's a stiff. I don't want that kind of a speech. It's too good. Anyway, hi. Great crowd. I'll tell you, he loves the country. You can see that enthusiasm for our country. That's what it's all about, right? Enthusiasm. And there's nowhere, speaking of enthusiasm, like Texas. I love Texas. Remember, they said it's going to be a very close race in Texas. It's going to be very close. So he's against God. He's against oil, he's against guns, and they said it was going to be close. I didn't think so, and it wasn't close. We won that race by a lot. But I'm thrilled to be back in the Lone Star State with thousands of hardworking American patriots who love our country, honor our history, and proudly salute our great American flag. I want to begin by thanking your terrific leaders here in Texas. They really are great leaders. They really are amazing people. Friends of mine, but they're warriors. Your governor, Greg Abbott, he's really worked hard. Your lieutenant governor, one of the greatest politicians I know. I've endorsed more people for this man. He tells me we have a great state senator. We have a great land commissioner who happens to be here. We have a great everything. Everything's always so great. And if they ever go against me, I call them up. I say, Dan Patrick, what the hell did you do? But your Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick. Dan, what a good man. His son, by the way, did a fantastic job as U.S. Attorney. We have a wonderful man who I think is one of the best in the country, one of the sharpest, and he's a fighter like no other. He's your Attorney General, Ken Paxton. Good. Thank you, Ken. Great job. Ken's got a big election. Get out there and vote. Get out there and vote. I hear you're doing very well. By the way, I hear you're doing very well, but let's bring home the bacon, right? Let's bring it home. Ken Paxton, get out and vote for him. A friend of mine and a warrior for a long time. He's been doing this for a long time. He's a real professional. He loves your state. Representative John Carter. John, thank you. It's a beautiful wife. Thank you, John. And your next land commissioner is somebody that's really a star, and she's going to be a rocket ship. You watch. Dawn Buckingham. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you. Future State Senator Pete Flores. Thank you, Pete. Good luck. You're going to do well, as usual, as you always do. And Texas House Member Frederick Frazier. Frederick, thank you very much. Thank you. They're all going to do great. And the next Tarrant County District Attorney, Philip Sorrells. Philip, good luck. He's a good man. Tough guy, that's what you need. We need toughness today. All of whom have my complete and total endorsement. So hopefully you can get out there and vote. Let me also give a special shout out to the Travis County GOP and the Texas GOP. They've been incredible. Look at this crowd. This crowd is, and this isn't a rally. This was just a thing. We're coming here. This is we call it the Freedom Tour. Thanks as well to each and every one of you here today for the unwavering devotion to our movement. There's never been a movement like this in the history of our country. There's never been such a movement. And to our shared American values of faith, family, and freedom. Thank you very much. And we didn't want the press to come, so we kept them out, and they went crazy. They went crazy. And I think they broke in, because I see some cameras there. They always find a way, even if it's taking your cell phone. They'll take your cell phone, they'll take anything. They hate me, but their ratings go down the tube, so all of a sudden they like you very much. I actually thought they'd all endorse me because you see what's going on? Nobody's watching them anymore. Their ratings are not doing well, which we happen to be very happy about, right? Over 4 incredible years, we accomplished more than anyone thought even possible. Together, we were Ultra MAGA. They gave us that name the other day. No, Biden did. And you know, with the Ultra MAGA. I said, boy, that sounds good. So he said that Ultra, make America great again. That's good. I like that better. I think let's change the name. We'll use Ultra. No, but we'd never get rid of MAGA. But then they called me the great king of MAGA. And I said, the great king. Great king. And I said, that's a good thing, isn't it, you know? The greatest was at the beginning of the administration. They came in, we will not abide by America first. We're not going to allow this to happen. America first. We're not allowed. And somebody said, you better stop him. This is not a good thing. Say we don't agree with Trump's policies on Second Amendment, on oil, all the things that you want. Okay, they don't agree with any of it. But you don't say, we disagree with America first, because that's not a good one. We have great names. I mean, think about it. It's MAGA, it's America first, and now I think we're going to go to Ultra MAGA. But as a result, our country was ultra prosperous, ultra secure, and ultra successful. The most successful our country's ever been. Most successful. We created 7 million new jobs. We had a record 164 million people working, far more than we have today, by the way. We achieved the largest poverty reduction in over 50 years. We lifted 7 million people off of food stamps. And we lifted 10 million people off of welfare. Never happened before. We created the greatest economy in the history of the world, and we did it with no inflation, low interest rates, and cheap gasoline. Just when you guys were going out and buying those big, beautiful trucks, and now you have to go back to the Volkswagen, right? Not terrible? We passed the largest tax cuts and regulation cuts in American history. With the help of Texas energy workers who are so incredible, we achieved American energy independence and even energy dominance. We were dominant. In another year, we would have been bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. We would have been double their size. We got gas down to $1.87 a gallon. We rebuilt the United States military, $2.5 trillion, modernized our nuclear forces, and we created something called Space Force that turned out to be very, very important. We stood up to Iran, Russia, and China like no president in history. We destroyed the ISIS territorial caliphate. We created peace in the Middle East. That's the wonderful, do you know the name of it? Go ahead. Abrams Accord, right? We did something nobody thought that was possible. We were going to have 12 countries within weeks of the election, and then the election got rigged and bad things happened, and our country's going to hell. Our country is going to hell. We brought our troops back home from so many different places. You know, we have great soldiers. We have great soldiers. We have great generals. Don't go by what you see on television with the people that represent us on television. We have great generals. What we did with Iraq was incredible. We defeated the ISIS caliphate. We were told we couldn't do it. Even some general said, and we did it in 4 weeks. We had a great general there. His name was Raisin Cain. General, what's your name? Cain, sir. My name's Cain. What's your first name? Raisin, sir. I said, wait a minute. Give it to me again, Raisin, sir. Your name is General Raisin Cain. I love you, General. You're my... I've been looking for you, General. I've been looking for you, not one of these guys that takes 3 years all the time. How long would it take, General? How long would it take to knock out the caliphate? I was told 3 years, General. Sir, we can do it in 3 weeks. I said, I'm liking this guy more and more by the minute. And I said, General, how would you do that? Well, sir, they never fought him very tough. They only wanted to fight him from one location, and it was a location where we are right now, sir, very far away. By the time our planes got there, they had to come back and refuel, and it wasn't good. Well, General, what would you do, sir? I'd hit him from here. I'd hit him from there. I'd hit him from every goddamn airport we have. I'd hit him from the left. I'd hit him from the right. I'd hit him from on top and underneath, sir. We'd hit him so many different ways. Sir, they wouldn't know what the hell happened. I said, why didn't you tell this to these generals that told you what to do from Washington? Well, sir, it's not our job to do that. It's our job to listen to them and do what they want to do. But did you know they were wrong? Yes, sir. But that's the way it is in the military. You're not supposed to do that, sir. I said, maybe we're going to have to start changing that a little bit, General. So you mean they think 3 years and it would be hard to do, and you say you can do it in 3 weeks? Yes, sir, you'll have time left over. Sure. Sure. I was in Iraq when this happened. We landed in Air Force One. The windows were all dark. The pilots are great. You know, they say the greatest pilots are the ones that fly Air Force One and all of the different things having to do with presidential, including the helicopters. But they said, sir, you're going to have to close your windows now, and all lights are going off on Air Force One. I said, wow, why? We just spent $2 trillion in this area. We have to turn our lights off when we go in. What the hell kind of a job did we do? Well, we're going to be landing, sir, in 1 hour. I said, we got to turn our lights off. I never saw anything like it. This thing, they had it closed. They had every light off. You couldn't see anything. But I went up with the pilots. These pilots, better looking than Tom Cruise, okay? No, they were central casting. You could put them in a movie right now. Nobody would believe they're from Hollywood. Better looking than Tom Cruise and much stronger. So I'm with the captain and all the people up there, and we're flying blind. You couldn't see anything. And I'm saying, Captain, are we close? Yes, sir, we'll be there in 5 minutes. Where are the runways, Captain? I don't see a runway. We're in the middle of a desert in Iraq. And I said, I don't see anything. No problem, sir. Don't worry about it. Then I hear 1,900, that's feet. You know what 900 feet is when you're in a plane like that? It looks like you're already landing. 800, 700, 600, 500. I said, Captain, are we okay? Yes, sir. No problem, sir. And he's up there cool as a cucumber, and I'm sitting there. I say, do I get a Congressional Medal of Honor for this trip? I'm thinking about, am I allowed to give myself a Congressional Medal of Honor for being so brave to sit up there and watch us land in the middle of a desert with no runway? And then it goes 400, 300, 200. Boom, we land. You hardly had a light, little tiny lights, because it's like a war zone. After 21 years, it was still a war zone. And we land. I say, Captain, was I brave? I called home. Sort of like Brian Williams, right? Remember him? The plane was shot out. There was shot. Lion Brian, remember that son of a gun? Lion Brian, the plane was shot. I didn't know. Hillary had the same thing, right? Crooked Hillary, there were bullets all over her helicopter. Turned out to be a false story. Disinformation, they now call it disinformation. It sounds nicer as opposed to lying. Disinformation. No, Hillary did it, and so did Lion Brian. Lion Brian lost his job over it. He went to MSDNC, right? Then I guess he got fired. He'll show up someplace. They never, you know, cockroaches, you can never kill them. No, they just show up. Could never kill him. But I got out of the plane, and there was Raisin Cain, General Raisin Cain. And I said, that's your really name? And he introduced me to another general who was a handsome guy, and he introduced me to a drill sergeant. I wish I looked like that. I would have been president 15 years earlier. These guys were so good. And then we went into a conference room in this really incredible military fort. It's just incredible the way it was. Just not a lot of big windows, I can tell you. And he told me this, and I said to him, all right, let's go. Let's do it. He said, I'll call you next week. And after less than 3 weeks, it was done. We took over the caliphate. We 100%. Do you remember when I said it's 98%? Remember what I said? It's 98, 97. And I told, I announced it's 97%. We're bringing our great soldiers back home. And the press hit me. He didn't do 100%. I said, let Russia, Iran, Iraq, and the rest of them take care. We want to come home after 21 years. And I brought them all home, but we got it 100%. And General Raisin Kane was unbelievable, I'll tell you. He hit them hard. He hit them hard. So we have great military, you know, and now we have a new military where the equipment was so old. The grandfathers flew some of the planes that the younger guys were flying. We also had tremendous success with therapeutics and Operation Warp Speed. Nobody's ever been able to do what we did with Operation Warp Speed, and even the enemy tells us that. Even the radical left lunatics tell us that. I rejected mandates and lockdowns and fought to get our children back into school. Under our leadership, the border was secure, our communities were safe, our country was strong, the world was at peace. And you know, the leaders of the world respected the President of the United States, and they respected our country again. There were no games. Like never before. I say like never before. They didn't necessarily like me because I didn't let them take advantage of us. Somebody said, in Germany, the German leaders liked Barack Hussein Obama better. Of course they did. He gave them everything. I gave them nothing. I gave them nothing. No, I said, you got to pay your bills. You know, all of what you see now with NATO, that's all because I made them pay their bills. They weren't paying. Out of the 28 countries at the time, 28 countries, 20 were deficient or delinquent. They weren't paying their bills. I said, you got to pay. One of the presidents stood up at a meeting with all 28. He said, sir, does that mean that if Russia were to attack us, you would not defend us? I said, you mean you haven't paid? That's right, sir. I would not defend you. I would not defend you. And the next day, billions and billions of dollars came in. Now, if I would have said, oh, no, of course, you know, the politically correct, oh, of course I defend you, you know, we have an obligation. No, they were totally deficient. I mean, the money, Germany was paying half what they were supposed to pay. But a lot of these countries, they were paying very little, almost nothing. And we were paying, I say 85, 90% to protect Europe, and then they took advantage of us on trade. And by the way, we have the same thing. So we're paying $40 billion, and they're paying almost nothing. Why aren't they paying something in terms of Ukraine? We want to help out. It's a human tragedy. But Europe is affected like nobody, and they're paying a tiny fraction of what we're paying. You know why? Because we don't have a leader that will tell them you got to pay up. It's the only reason. But in just 16 months, Joe Biden and the radical left have turned calm into chaos, prosperity into poverty, and security into a total catastrophe. The election was rigged, it was stolen, and now our country is paying a very, very big price. Our country, in many ways, is being destroyed. The Biden disasters are too numerous to count, but inflation is the highest in nearly 50 years. Gas prices have reached the highest price ever in the history of our country, destroying families. You know, when you have gas prices at this is like the biggest tax increase ever proposed or enacted times 3. That's what it's like. That's how bad the gasoline is affecting families, not to mention your electric costs and everything else. Grocery prices are skyrocketing, and you can't even find baby formula to feed your infant. And yet we're approving in one session $40 billion. And you know what? We got to get other people to help us. We can't keep doing this. We are like the stupid people. We're the stupid people. We're led by stupid people, I can tell you that. And all you have to do is ask. You say, we're going to give this, but you got to make up the same, at least the same. But you can't give a tiny fraction. You can't do it. Germany was sending them blankets and pillows, and they were sending them nothing. And they're very, you know, right there. Right there. Yet Biden sits and does nothing but approve more and more money. 4.5 million people have dropped out of the labor force. Real wages have declined 13 months in a row. and we're seeing totally devastating stagflation. Just in case you don't know stagflation, I won't get into definitions. It means you got a disaster on your hands. In Afghanistan, Biden created the greatest humiliation in American history. In my opinion, that was the most humiliating period of time, day, 2 days, week. Fortunately for them, the press hardly covered it. They covered it for one day and they just put it away. They didn't want to talk about it because that would hurt them. But soldiers were killed, horrifically wounded. They don't talk about those that lost their arms and their legs, many of them. Hostages were left behind. And $85 billion of military equipment was handed over to the Taliban as we take out our military before we took out anything else. It was the dumbest. I heard Don speaking about it. The dumbest thing I've ever seen. Putin saw this incredible weakness. You know, when I was in charge, in 18 months, we didn't lose one American soldier. Think of it. Not one. As opposed to last night, which you saw in Milwaukee, and you saw, I guess, a total of 20 in different, and just as I'm coming off the stage, I think they had a tragic event in Buffalo. Just as I'm coming on the stage, tragic event in Buffalo with numerous people being killed. In 18 months in Afghanistan, we lost nobody. I spoke with Abdul. He was the leader of the Taliban and still is, by the way. I said, Abdul, don't do it, don't do it. They all criticized me, the fake news. They said, why is he speaking to the Taliban? That's like when they used to say to Jesse James, why are you robbing the banks? He said, because that's where the money is, right? They said, why are you speaking to the Taliban? I said, because I don't want them to kill our soldiers, and I want to tell them if they do, they're going to go through hell. And I said that to Abdul. I said, Abdul, don't kill our soldiers. If you're going to be hit so hard, don't do it. Just don't do it, Abdul. Let's get along. Don't do it. And he said, but Your Excellency, he called me Your Excellency, but Your Excellency, why? Why, oh, why do you send me a picture of my house? And I was unable to explain that. I was not able. He said, why do you do that? And I said, you have to ask your people why. But from that conversation, we didn't lose one, think of it, not one American soldier was even shot at. And then we leave, we look like we surrendered. We did surrender in a sense. Putin saw this incredible weakness in Afghanistan and the way we did that. And, you know, I'm the one that was pulling out. I got it down to 2,000 soldiers, would have kept Bagram. Bagram is one of the most expensive bases we've ever built, and it's 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons, and we left it, and now China is going to take it over. It's not believable. It makes you so angry, so stupid. And he decided, when Putin saw this, he decided to go into Ukraine, and something would have never, ever happened if I was in the White House. It didn't happen in 4 years, remember that. And even the radical left lunatics say it wouldn't have happened if Trump was there. They actually say that pretty loud and clear. Sleepy Eyes, Chuck Todd on Meet the Fake Press. He said the other day, he was interviewing somebody, and he said, he almost got fired probably over this question. How come this didn't happen when Trump was president? That was a nice question. I couldn't believe it. And they were unable to answer that question. He was talking to the Secretary of State. They were unable to. How come this didn't happen? Never happened. It was never going to happen either. Putin and I had an understanding it was never going to happen. Not even a chance. Not even a little chance. And they actually agree, the other side. The Biden administration is a calamity of historic proportions, but don't lose hope, because together we will restore greatness to our country. We are going to build our country back. We're going to have a great November. We're going to win a lot of seats in the House. Hopefully we'll do good. Despite Mitch McConnell, we'll do well in the Senate. And you know what we're going to do in a couple of years from then? You know, it used to be like, I'd say 4 years. But I said, you know, look, with all the shenanigans in the election, maybe it would go faster if we had people that would fight. Maybe it should go faster. We know it should go faster. It should go faster. It should go instantaneous. How do you get away with that? And go see 2,000 Mules. It's the greatest documentary I've ever seen. It is so impactful. And it's determinative, as they say. You know, they cheat many ways, but you don't have to cheat. All you have to do is look at this one. They have everybody's on tape. Everybody's pinged. You know, they use pinging now with your cell phone. And that's the way they arrested many of the people from January 6th. Pinging. But with us, they'll say, pinging doesn't work. It's a disgrace. Go see 2,000 Mules. One of the greatest travesties of all is to see a person in the White House who's got no idea what's really happening, no clue on how to negotiate things, and no sense of how to wield American power. I never realized it until I was out. When I watched what's happening now, because you could solve many of these problems with a simple phone call to Putin. You don't have to have meetings. A simple phone call to President Xi of China, and that'll probably be next, other than when he sees what's going on with Russia, he may say, well, maybe we'll take some time out. That's the only thing that's going to stop him right now. We've gone from a deal maker in chief, we made great deals for this country, to really an excuse maker. Blames everybody. Blames people that have nothing to do with anything. When I was president, we didn't blame Putin for every problem. We didn't blame anybody. We just got the job done. It was too late to blame people. We got the job done. And I brought a certain skill and experience from a lifetime in business. I put it to work for the American worker, the American family, the American taxpayer, like no other president, frankly, has ever done. Prior to even taking office, I was negotiating, because I told the people doing this, I said, you want to talk a little bit about business? You know, we used to give business seminars, and I've had a great business and have a great business. I said, if you want, we can do that, because we're sort of, you know, the expression hanging around. We're a little hanging around. We're hanging around while we wait to see how bad it's getting, and then in a little while, I think everybody in this room is going to be extremely happy. But we're hanging around a little bit. But even before I took office, I was negotiating to save taxpayers over $1.4 billion on Air Force One. Now, you know that story, right? I came to the White House, a general came up to me, sir, what is it, General? Air Force. Sir, we're ready to sign the contract. Oh, what contract, General? To buy Air Force One. Now, Air Force One is actually two planes, not one. So it's Air Force One, but it's two planes, two big, beautiful, brand new Boeings. And I looked at ours, which are 32 years old, and I'd compare them with the Arab leaders that would come in planes that were like 15 minutes old. And I'd say, you know, the United States has these old planes. And if you know about planes, there's a big difference between the new 747 and the old one, including size, believe it or not. Much bigger, and we should have the best, right? But a lot of presidents were afraid to make a deal. They think it's too luxurious. But Biden, in all fairness, that whole group, and Obama, so they made a deal, and I walked in, and I'm supposed to sign the deal. One of the earliest acts, sir, we have it ready to sign, sir. I said, what is it? Air Force One. I said, how much? $5.7 billion, sir. I said, wait a minute, let's get this straight. I'm going to buy 2 airplanes for $5.7 billion. That sounds like a lot. I said, I knew nothing about it. I said, General, I'm not signing. I'm not signing under any circumstance. I'm not spending $5.7 billion for 2 planes. I'm not doing it. Well, sir, you have to. I say, do you have a cancellation clause? Yes, sir, we do. If we pay $250 million, they'll not make us buy them. I say, wait a minute, General, let me ask you. So you have a cancellation clause. You got to pay $250 million? I said, okay, call them up and tell them we're not buying them. Don't put anything down. Just tell them. We're not going to buy the planes. So the head of Boeing called me up, Dennis, nice guy. That was before the tragedy that took place in Boeing. What a horrible thing happened. And Boeing was the greatest company in the world, and then they had the 2 planes go down so stupidly. They tried to save on hardware or something. I mean, what happened? But this was before, when Boeing was considered the greatest in the world, and hopefully they'll be back again. We're trying to help them as much. I was really good to them. I tried to help them as much as I could. But the head of it called up, sir, we have to get the 5.7. I said, nope, has to have a 3 in the front of it, right? You know, not a 5, a 3. They said, a 3, no way, we're not doing it. Nope, we're not. So he walked, and that was the end of that. Calls me back a week. We'll take off $500 million. Same exact plane. I said, nope, has to have a 3 in the front of it. I can't do it, sir. Next 2 weeks, he calls later. He says, we'll take off another $500 million. Nope, has to have a 3. And I didn't even care at that point. You know, with deals, a lot of business people in this audience, you know, you'll do a deal, and if it doesn't work out, if they bring up the deal like 2 weeks later, you don't even remember what the hell the deal was. So a month went by, and I get a call from the head of Boeing. I said, what the hell does he want? I had no idea. And he said, sir, we'll make it $3,999,999.99. I said, Dennis, you have a deal. And now, you've all seen it in the papers, Boeing just put out a release that they're losing their ass on Air Force One. They're going to lose over $600 million, and they'd like to renegotiate the deal. And I would say, you can't do that. They made the deal. You can't do that. And in many ways, I feel badly for them, but in many ways, I'm very happy because that's the way we should be negotiating in our country, right? It's a big story. They want to renegotiate the deal because the deal is no good for them. So, you know, only from the ego standpoint, I feel very good about that. Also, in my first few months, I negotiated $700 million of bloated costs out of Lockheed Martin's F-35 program simply by getting Boeing to give me a competing proposal. I told them, I don't like the F-35. I told that to the people from Lockheed. What do you mean? I don't like it. I don't like it. It's got a lot of different reasons I don't like it. And besides that, Boeing, and I'll never forget, I had the head of Boeing come in. I said, sit outside of the reception room. And then I had the head of Lockheed come in, and I said, sit outside of the reception room. So Lockheed saying, what the hell's Boeing doing here? And the other one saying, what's Lockheed doing here? And I got into a war with them, and I cut the price by $700 million. It took about 10 minutes. But if you want to have leverage in a negotiation, you have to have options. And if you don't have them, you have to create those options. Before becoming president, I heard about an aircraft carrier with tremendous cost overruns. The President Gerald Ford, largest ship in the world, by the way. But it's a disaster. And I talked to them about the reasons, and a lot of reasons why it was so crazy. They've been building it for 7 years. You know, in the old days, during World War II, I don't know if you ever heard, we built a ship a day. Did you know that? This country built a ship a day. You know, tankers and this and that, but we built a ship a day, freighters. We knocked them out. Today, it's a different world, and we want to get back to where we can do that if we ever need it. But I said, what's wrong with this aircraft carrier? Because I've been reading about it, that it's way, way over cost. It was supposed to cost $3 billion. And they're doing quite well. It's at $18 billion, right? So I said, what's the story? Well, the catapult system, sir, doesn't work. I said, why? That's been good for years, steam. Well, we decided to use electric. I said, wait a minute, for years, you know, you see all the planes get catapulted off the deck. It's a beautiful thing to watch, the steam, wah, and the plane gets thrown out there. Those pilots are the greatest. Top Gun, right? They're the greatest pilots. And they get thrown into the ocean, and they just take off, and it's beautiful to watch. So I said, what's the problem? The electric catapults don't work. They never did electric before. I said, and what else is a problem? Well, sir, the elevators that bring the planes, these are massive elevators. The elevators that bring the plane up, they're made out of magnets instead of hydraulic like a tractor. A hydraulic, you can hit it with a blowtorch. With these things, if I take a glass of water and drop it in the right spot, it's gone. You have to send to MIT to get the smartest professor to fix it. Think of it. And it doesn't have the same strength. Other than that, it's wonderful. So I land on the aircraft carrier. I want to see what the hell's going on. Gerald Ford. And I noticed that the tower is in the back of the, I've never seen that. It's always, you know what aircraft carrier. You have the aircraft carrier, you have the tower in the middle, and hanging out over the side, so there's a lot of room. Well, we put the tower in the back. Not me. I got there. This thing is almost built at the time I was there. It was finished, but they couldn't get it to work. So the tower's at the back. So I immediately said it doesn't look good, because I'm a very visual person, as you probably heard. I'm a very visual person. The look of something costs you the same money, costs you less money. They put the tower in the back. So now the pilots, did you ever know that the hardest thing for a pilot to do is land on an aircraft carrier? Has anyone ever, are there any pilots in here? You have a lot of great pilots, but if they're a little bit claustrophobic, they can't do it. It's the hardest thing to do. So now, instead of having a wide open space, you have a tighter space because the tower's in the back. Then I said, let me ask you, what's under the tower? That says ammunition. Yes, sir, that's where we keep our ammunition. I said, so you mean if the ammunition gets hit, this poor captain doesn't have a chance. He gets blown to hell. He goes sailing. That's right, sir. I said, who is the architect? Get him into my office. Then I went and I landed and I said, General, and I had the admiral there that was in charge. I said, Admiral, in all due respect, I don't want to talk to you. We have a serious problem here. We have a ship that's got no direction. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And I heard they use electric catapults and magnetic. It lifts up with a magnet. Think of that, okay? Magnetic elevators. Can't get the planes out of the basement because it would hold 7 planes at one time and it would lift them up like nothing. But now we can't do that because we have magnets lifting like a child. Let's have magnets. So I said, I don't like this because I really am. Probably, I don't know. I was asked, what are you better at? Construction and real estate or politics? I said, I don't know, but I know there are a lot of good real estate people around, but there's only one president, and especially when you won it twice, right? And we may have to do it a third time. We may have to do it. Our country is going to hell. But I went and I said, Admiral, in all due respect, I want to meet with the catapult people. They're called catapulters. Yes, sir, that's a strange request. I said, why is it strange? You can't operate the plane. Why is that a strange request, right? So I see these 5 guys, great guys, real top mechanics. I say to them, who's the boss? I am, sir, Sam. Good, Sam. So what do you think of the catapult system that's electric? It's no good, sir. I said, will it ever work? No, sir, it's no good. I said, why is it no good? And why did they do it? They said, they did it, sir, because with electric, you can have it go as fast as you want, back and back. So it can go boom, boom, boom. There's only one problem. It takes 2 minutes to load the plane. And the steam builds up over the 2 minutes, and it's perfect, sir. And the steam's got more power. And the steam, I can fix it with a hammer and a blowtorch. And we have huge waves and bombs potentially coming in. You know, we're shot at, and the waves are crashing. And every time a little water hits it, it goes out. I said, what happens when it goes out? We don't send our planes, sir. You can't send a plane out without the catapult. I said, that's a serious problem. So I said, so what would you do? He said, it doesn't work, sir. It doesn't work. And they spent $900 million overrun, not the cost, overrun, on trying to fix it, and it doesn't work. And I said, you better get it back. And then I went back and I said, what about the elevators? You guys know about the elevators? Yes, sir. How are they? They're terrible, sir. They don't work. We're not going to get the planes up. If a little water hits them, if a little water, and we know this from first grade, if a little water hits the magnets, they don't work. So I said to him, we're going to have to do something, aren't we? Yes, sir. Then I see the architect. I say, this is the largest ship in the world, right? Yes, sir. Have you ever designed a ship before? Well, I did one about 10 years ago, sir. These people are so stupid. And I could tell you 100, 200 stories like that. They have no common sense. You know, people say, is Trump conservative? It's not a question of being conservative or not. Ask, who has common sense? Because most of this stuff, like a border. I want a border. Call me conservative. Call me liberal. I want a border. I want voter ID. I want low taxes. Call me liberal. Call me anything you want. But when you think about it, most of it's common sense. I mean, I think 95% of it's not conservative or liberal, it's common sense. When Canada refused to come to the table to negotiate the NAFTA disaster, we have an agreement, the worst agreement ever made. So bad. It's just a one-shot for years and years, decades. I pulled out a model of a little car. Somebody gave me a little car. I had a little car from Barron in the old days. Just a little car this big. I put it on my desk. Then Trudeau came into my office. I told him candidly, I said, look, I'm happy to tell you this, but if we don't make this deal, I'm going to tariff all of the cars that you send into the United States at about 25%. And you better make the deal because otherwise I'm putting big, big tariffs on Canada. And he said, I'd love to make the deal. Who told you I wouldn't? Well, I was told. I was told you wouldn't. And we made the deal, and it's a great deal. Now Canada and Mexico want to renegotiate the deal. Don't do it. Don't do it. We suffered with the worst deal ever made in trade. That was NAFTA. Don't renegotiate. I tell this to Biden. Don't renegotiate the deal. When I told King Salman of Saudi Arabia that we wanted to have them pay us $4 billion, often $4 billion, many times, to reimburse America for the cost of their defense. Now, they have nothing but cash, okay? So the $4 billion's peanuts. But it was costing us. We were protecting Saudi Arabia. They weren't paying. So he replied very respectfully, but nobody has ever asked us for that. I said, that's why I'm different. I'm asking. And they agreed to pay. This was easier than renting a middle-income apartment. And he's a good man, but they agreed to pay immediately. I said, look, it's costing us billions and billions of dollars to protect Saudi Arabia, and you have nothing but cash, and you have to pay. And he said, but I'll never forget it, but nobody has ever asked us to do that. That was his reason for not paying, and when I asked him, they paid. You don't get what you don't ask for, and you won't be treated fairly. And the interesting thing is I got along great with Saudi Arabia. I get along great with all these countries. Hey, look, they always say I was soft on Russia. I'm the one that terminated their pipeline. I'm the one that put sanctions on them. I'm the one that got NATO to pay $430 billion to protect against Russia. And then these horrible, horrible people say Trump was soft on Russia. I'll never forget Putin saying to me, you're killing me on the pipeline. I say, sorry, Vladimir, I have to do it. Think of it. I ended the pipeline. It was terminated. That was the biggest thing they ever did. They were going to get billions and billions of dollars a week. And I said, nope, it's over. And then Biden came in and he approved it. And by the way, he killed the Keystone Pipeline. How about that one? He did a little reversal. When Mexico refused to help secure the border and stop illegal immigration, I announced that I was putting a 5% tariff on all goods coming from Mexico. And then I said it goes to 10% the following, 15%, 20%, and then 25% the following week. And they said, we will never do these things. And as soon as they heard about the tariff, they said, we would love to do that. We would love to put 28,000 soldiers free of charge on your border to protect you from people pouring into your country. It's true. I went to the State Department about that. I said to the State Department, a woman, very good woman, 25 years she dealt only with Mexico. I said, I want them to give us 28,000 soldiers to protect our border from people coming in because they're coming in through Mexico. And she laughed. And then I said, I want to have stay in Mexico. You've been reading a lot about it. In other words, nobody can come into our country. They have to wait in Mexico, and if they get approved, which wasn't too often, if they get approved. Hundreds of thousands of people were there, but they said they'll never approve this. We've been asking for these things for 25 years, as long as I've been. I said to the Border Patrol, we have great people here today from the Border Patrol, by the way. I said to them, and to ICE. I said, give me the top 10 things. So I went in with a list of 10, and everybody laughed at me. You'll never get it. I said, 100% I'll get it. Why would you say I wouldn't get it? We've been asking for 25 years. I said, you'll get it, 100%. 100%. And they all smiled and they listened. And then the representative came right under the president. I like the president. He's a socialist, but I like him. But they came in right, the top guy. I said, listen, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to give us 28,000 soldiers on our border immediately. You're going to stay in Mexico. We're going to have hundreds of thousands of people waiting in Mexico instead of in our country and wreaking all sorts of havoc, especially the ones released from prisons from other countries, as you know. And many other things, including our medical situation that we have right now, where medically they're not allowed to come into our country that Biden wants to end. Said, you got to do all these things. And he said, no, no, we would not do that. He actually laughed. He thought it was so stupid. I said, no, you'll do that. You will do it. He said, what do you mean we'll do it? Why do you say that? How could you say that? I said, because here's the story. We're going to tariff every car that you make and sell into the United States, which is millions of cars, at 25%. And we're going to tariff everything that Mexico sells in to the country. And I have the document right here. This was a Friday, and I said on Monday morning at 8 o'clock, the tariff begins. He looked at me, he said, sir, it would be a great honor to protect your country. We will have 28,000 soldiers there by Monday morning. And we had 28,000 soldiers. In fact, people saw so many soldiers, they thought we were being invaded by the Mexican army. We had 28,000 soldiers. We had the most secure border in the history of our country. We ended catch and release. We stopped asylum fraud. We achieved all sorts of things along the border. It was an incredible thing. It was an incredible period of time. In the end, we got more help securing the border from Mexico than we did from the Democrats in Congress. They did everything they could to obstruct. And sadly, Biden is now systematically surrendering every single advantage that I really brilliantly got. They don't give me any credit, these fakers back here. But we got it. It was brilliant. It was smart. It was streetwise. You could call it whatever you want. But they were no longer taking advantage. And we stopped human trafficking at a level that has never been stopped. And it was always trafficking, for the most part, in women. They would bring women in trunks of cars. It was the most disgusting thing. And human trafficking, we stopped drugs. We brought down drugs to the lowest point it's been in 3 decades. And it was only getting better. All they had to do was go to the beach. Don't do anything. And they came in and they threw everything out, including a simple thing called stay in Mexico. The military left, the Mexico military left. They said, we don't have to stay for this guy. Trump is gone. Oh, thank God Trump is gone. Let's get the hell out of here. Why are we doing it? We don't give a damn about the United States, So they left. He threw open our borders, tore up our asylum agreements, surrendered our energy independence, and unilaterally lowered tariffs on communist China. Now he's ending the tariffs on China. China is paying us billions and billions and billions of dollars, and we're now ending. I gave $28 billion of the Chinese money, the tariff money, to the farmers, our farmers, because they were screwed by China. I went to our Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, good guy, Sonny Perdue. By the way, anybody around here voting in Georgia, vote for David Perdue over Kemp. Kemp was a disaster. It was a disaster on election integrity, I can tell you. But I went to Sonny Perdue. I said, how much have we been hurt, our farmers? And it was over a 2-year period, about $28 billion. I said, fine, we're going to take $28 billion. We're going to give it to the farmers. So we got them back. It was amazing. And everybody said, that's unbelievable. The farmers, that's why they love me. But all I did, they don't want any advantage. They just want a level playing field. But he's now begging to re-enter the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. Worse than it was. I terminated that one too, by the way, in case anyone didn't notice. And now they want to go back into it, but a much worse version that's going to give nuclear weapons to Iran very, very shortly. It looks like they're just moving forward with it. Nobody's even talking to them. But the good news is we have China and Russia negotiating for us. Did you hear that one? You know that. China and Russia are negotiating with Iran over the Iran nuclear deal. Can you imagine this? Russia is negotiating for us the Iran nuclear deal. It's a very important thing. I did a great thing for Israel. We saved Israel, frankly. Saved it. In addition to, of course, the embassy moving to Jerusalem, Jerusalem becoming the capital, right? And we gave you the Mount on High for 52 years. They worked on that. I got it done in about 12 minutes. The Democrats are even plotting to drastically restrict presidential authority to use tariffs. If they do that, they have given away our country. They're right now negotiating a deal to get rid of the presidential power to charge tariffs to other countries that are screwing us. Excuse me to the young people. Has anyone ever heard that word? No. They're taking advantage of us. And now these people in Congress want to get rid of presidential power they're doing this for China and other countries. And you can't let them do that. They're all watching now. You can't do that. You can't take the power of tariffs away. If you do that, our country is doomed. We will be taken advantage of like never, ever, ever before. All China cared about is the tariffs, and now they're taking those tariffs. We took in billions. No president has ever taken in literally 10 cents from China. We took in billions and billions of dollars and saved our steel industry, by the way. Our steel industry is ready to go kaput. There's never been such a pathetic administration in all of history. There's never been anything like this. I'll tell you what, Jimmy Carter looks like a great president right now. Ladies and gentlemen, one of our greatest presidents, Jimmy Carter, because by comparison, he looks great. We're seeing what happens when you deal with weakness in the White House. You need somebody that's leading the band. If you don't have somebody, it's not going to happen. But with the right leadership, America's comeback can begin, and it can really begin, I think, very quickly. For a while, I was saying, man, can you ever recover from this? You know, one of the things that is hard is the millions and millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country as we speak. I mean, we're speaking to you now. People are pouring across the border. And think of it, I mentioned it a little bit, but they're emptying out their prisons into the United States of America. Last week, 129 countries were represented by people coming in illegally. 129. Many of the people that come in are from prisons. Why wouldn't they do that? They don't want those people. They're emptying their prisons out into the United States. It's so sad what's happening. They're poisoning our country. The day after the November election, the economy will begin to improve because consumers and businesses will know that at least the threat of socialist Democrats is sort of over. Because, you know, we can stop. Even if we win the House, we can stop it. At least we can stop it. So important. This is the most important election you've ever had. And we could win a lot, but at least, you know, you'll need the House, you'll need the Senate. And if we even had one, we can at least save it until we have the next election. And the next election, I think we're going to be in very good shape. But we're going to watch those vote counters are going to have to be honest. Did you ever hear the expression, a well-known expression, used often, that the vote counter is oftentimes far more important than the candidate? That's what happened to us. That's what happened to us, and it's a disgrace that Republicans and a lot of local Republicans and states, that they allowed it to happen. It's a disgrace. To stop the wave of violent crime in our Democrat-run cities, we will take billions and billions of dollars out of Joe Biden's radical left socialist agenda, and we will give that money straight to local communities to hire tens of thousands more police officers, and we will give the authority back to those police officers so they can protect us. Their authority's been taken away. And we want to put these bloodthirsty criminals behind bars for a long time. We're going to give the authority back. You know, nobody says that. No other politician says that. They're all talking about police reform. They take away everything. You know that a policeman in some places, if he does something and if he's a little bit off, he gets sued personally and has to go out and hire lawyers. They want to take that away. No defending the police, no nothing. They're taking all their authority away. We have to give the police their authority back. You will see crime stop quickly. Under a Republican Congress, we will once and for all ban critical race theory in our schools, and we will stand up for parental rights. Parental rights. No teacher should ever be allowed to teach transgender to our children. And we will keep men out of women's sports. Is that okay? Is that all right? We're going to keep men out of women's sports. You saw, you know, I tell them, it took place a couple of months ago. This young female swimmer, very good. She wanted to break the record. She was looking at 1/16 of a second, maybe 1/8 if she really did great, and she was all psyched. And then this dude stood up alongside of her. She said, man, that guy's big. He's like massive. And he broke the record by 38 seconds. And she was badly injured. You know how she got injured? Wind burned. When he went by her, he went by so fast that the wind had a horrible effect on her. She didn't know what the hell happened. And this is happening all the time. The women's records are being shattered by numbers. I mean, look, the whole thing's ridiculous. And you know, people are afraid to talk. I'm the only one that ever talks about the subject. Well, Ken Paxton talks about the subject, right? And Dan Patrick talks about it. Dan, you have no problem with me. I don't notice Dan being upset that I'm talking about the subject. The other one is weightlifting. That's the greatest. So this woman, she's at, I think, 209 pounds. That's a lot, right? 209. You get her lifted, she's going to break that record. They put like a quarter of an ounce on one side, quarter of an ounce. She's got to break the record. She, didn't make it. This guy comes up, bing, bing, it was ridiculous. Was it 100 and some odd pounds? He broke it by a little more than the 1/8 of an ounce on each side. That's what they put, 1/8 of an ounce on each side. It's crazy. And you know, people are afraid to talk about it. The women are afraid. Do you know the swimmers on that team don't want to talk about it because it's not politically correct? They're afraid to talk about it. Just like they're afraid, Fox, they're all afraid to talk about the election, the fake election. They're all afraid to talk. I talk about it. I talk about it. They're all afraid to talk about it. They want to be politically correct. I don't know what the hell it is. But think of it. So they go to the swimmers on the team. The record was broken by 38 seconds, and they asked the female swimmers on the team, what do you think? And, I'd rather not discuss it. They don't want to talk about it. Very few talk about it. They talk about other things. They don't want to talk about things that are very important to our country, like borders, like elections, like that, to a much lesser extent like that, but that's a big thing. Right here in Texas, your Attorney General, Ken Paxton, is investigating Big Pharma for pushing puberty blockers. This is a puberty blocker and other dangerous sex-changing drugs on minor youth. Next year, Republicans should follow Paxton's lead and demand to know why Big Pharma is getting away with chemically mutilating America's children. That's what's happening. And finally, we must pass critical election integrity reforms, including universal voter ID, citizenship confirmation. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to know, oh, gee, they're a citizen? No more fake drop boxes, no private money pouring into local election offices, and ultimately, same-day voting, one day. Same-day voting on paper ballots. Paper ballots. You know, France just had an election. No complaints, no nothing. They had the thing. It was done by 12 o'clock in the evening, their time. And they had paper ballots, Dan, paper ballots. And they had none of all this machinery from the sky. And let's change it. Oh, gee, we made a couple of 100,000 error. We made an error of 250,000 votes. Oh, let's change it. Bing, it's changed. Paper ballots. You go paper ballots. It's the only thing. Paper ballots, same day. How about these elections where you have 48 days? 48 days. So they store the ballots from the early, and you got rooms sitting there that are empty, the doors opening. People are walking in and out with boxes. Where the hell are you going? I don't know. We're just moving them around a little bit. 48 days. I mean, it starts so early, and then they want to finish late, right? This is the greatest hoax, heist. This is one of the greatest crimes in the history of our country. And sadly, the prosecutors don't want to do anything about it. They go after other people. They don't want to go after criminals that kill people on the streets. They like going after Republicans. That's what they really like. This is the greatest. This is the crime of the century. I'm actually writing a book about it called The Crime of the Century. I don't think you'll enjoy it. You'll be very depressed when you read it, but we want to have it down for historic reasons. But first, we have to do this. If we create a landslide, that's the one thing they can't beat. It's very hard to beat it. We have to win in a landslide because otherwise they're going to rig it or steal it like they've been doing for a long time, but never, never like this. They use COVID in order to steal an election. If you want to learn the truth about all of these issues, go to Truth Social. Have you seen Truth? It's doing great. It's new, it's hot, and it's actually much, much better than Twitter. It blows Twitter away. Everybody loves it, especially the engagement. I mean, it's amazing. Elon Musk, so I don't believe he's going to buy Twitter because you have so many fake accounts, the bots, all of the different things. I think it's going to be very interesting. And he's got some problems because he bought a lot of stock that he shouldn't have bought. He got a lot of problems with Twitter. But the Twitter has a lot of problems. So go to Truth Social. I think you're going to find Truth is great. We tell the truth. We tell the truth. Great that we got that name. Can you imagine? We're driving the radical left crazy. We have something called Truth. Trump is going, we don't say put out a tweet. We say we put out a truth. They go totally crazy. So go sign up. Everyone in this room is fighting for the same timeless American values. We believe in the American Constitution, and we believe in the rule of law. We believe that our founding documents are not a source of shame. They are a source of great pride. We believe that faith and family, not government and bureaucracy, are the true American way. We believe that America is a sovereign nation with a sovereign people, which means that we must have strong, secure borders. We believe in the dignity of work and the sanctity of life. We believe in religious liberty, the right to free speech, and the right to keep and bear arms, Second Amendment, which is under siege. We believe that the first duty of government is to protect and defend the interests of its own citizens. In other words, to put America first at all times. We believe that children should be taught to love our country, honor our history, and always respect our great American flag. And we live by the words of our national motto, "In God we trust." You know, they want that motto to change. They want us not to use that motto. We're using that motto. We're not changing that motto. Don't allow it to be changed. They want to change the name of our forts, Fort Bragg, Fort Sumter, Fort Robert E. Lee. And we don't like that, do we? We don't like that. We won the First World War from there. We won the Second World War from there. We won a lot before we went politically correct. Our MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, is by far the greatest political movement in the history of our country. Probably it's in the history of any country, and it's getting stronger every single day. When we watch what they're doing and destroying our country, it gets stronger and stronger. So to each of you in this hall, this giant hall that's packed to the rafters, thank you very much. I ask you to get ready to work, get ready to fight, get ready to win, and win like never before. We're going to win. We're going to win like never before. Together, we will take back the House. We will take back the Senate. And we will take back our country. And then, most importantly, in 2024, we are going to take back our beautiful, beautiful, beautiful White House. And with the support of patriots like you all across this magnificent land, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. And we will make America great again. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you, Texas. Thank you very much.